Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast, a hybrid structure encompassing health, fitness, self-improvement, and entertainment, where no topic is off limits and all opinions are graciously welcomed.
Let's get on with the show!
And now, here's the host of the show, Mike Sinopoli.
This is the MFS Wellness Podcast. I am Mike Sinopoli, and this is a relatively rare episode for me, as I prefer not to speak too much of politics on the show, given the outlook of it all and the touchiness of it. So, but we are 1 week away from a presidential election here in the United States. So I decided, why not dive into these toxic, muddy waters a bit and just see how it goes, So joining me up for this discussion, and it's a very special guest today. He is the founder and lead guitarist for the Chicago-based rock band Seventh Heaven. He is a cruise enthusiast, and as of late, he has been very, very vocal about the upcoming 2024 U.S. presidential election. His name is Richie Hofherr. And Richie, how are we doing today, sir?
Great. How are you?
Hey,
Great.
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. It's been a while since we've chatted, and I appreciate you coming on here doing this with me. Again, like I said, I wanted to get some thoughts here on this upcoming election and a few other things. But before we dive into that, I'm sure most people listening know who you are. But for those that don't, you have a band here in the Chicagoland area. You go all over the place a little bit since 1985, right? That's when Seventh Heaven began?
Yeah, when I was young.
Playing
My mom and dad would take me to shows because I was too young to drive.
Shit. Wow, that's amazing, man. It's 1985. That's something else. I was 2 years old, so I was not at your early shows. But I
was 15.
20 years later, I jumped in on the Seventh Heaven bandwagon and had a lot of fun times and fond memories seeing you guys play. Everything from your originals to your covers. I still am blown away by the medleys you do. I'm not gonna lie. I remember just showing people back in the day. I had the CD in my car, and you guys got to listen to this. If you guys don't know, the Seventh Heaven puts together, other than their great originals, some medleys, about 30 songs in 30 minutes or so. And then what a great listen that is, and how they mix it all together. It's really impressive, Richie.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of fun. It's a cool flashback of good music, and it's just good music to celebrate life with.
And it sure is, man. And especially in like our short attention span days, you hear one song and then it switches to the next one, then the next one, and we're just getting that rush, that stimulation that constantly goes. I didn't know we needed that.
If you don't like it, it's almost over, and if you love it, you want more of it. So
yeah, exactly.
Plays with the mind a little bit. Plus, a lot of people don't know this. The medleys are always progressively getting faster. So from a workout aspect, and a sports aspect, coming from my sports background, it helps the heart rate. So people dance to it, and you're progressively getting faster. So it works really well with the rhythm of your whole body. So
absolutely, yeah. To throw that thing on, 30 minutes is a solid workout, and
solid workout.
And there you go. You just press play. You don't have to look back down at your phone or your device or anything like that, and you just kind of just go with it. So totally. I dig that. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, you've got a cruise coming up, it looks like, here in a couple of weeks.
So we've got 3 cruises coming up. We've got November 14th, 15th. We're leaving to go to the Utopia of the Seas just for a weekend on Royal Caribbean's cruise on the Chicago Music Cruise. If you go to chicagomusiccruise.com, all the information's there. We're just doing a short little weekend trip there. Then we do a bigger one for a week on the Icon of the Seas on January 18th, 2025. And then we go on March 22nd, 22 of 2025 with a whole bunch of bands that will have like 500 people on it. And that's like a spring break cruise. And we're going on an 8-night. That one is going to the Southern Caribbean, Aruba, Curacao, and Coco Key. So it's fun. We go on these large group cruises, and everybody goes on. I see so many people having fun. They're happy. They're enjoying themselves. And I'm really attracted to seeing people enjoy life and be happy. That's really, and so I started a travel agency to facilitate these cruises, and I see the joy that it brings people, and I don't know. I go through life. I meet a lot of people, and we see a lot of things, and not a lot of people have a constant happiness. Sometimes they're dealing with struggles of whatever it may be, financially, a job, a relationship, health. But when you get on a cruise, you see like people are just letting go and relaxing and having fun, and so I like that, and it's inspiring to me to work to build these group cruises and have people come on and just enjoy life and be happy. So I think I'll do them until I grow old and die.
That's amazing.
You
man.
can come on one, Mike, one time. You gotta come on.
I have to, I have to do that. I have to bring my, now are the kids,
yes, my kids come on. So,
okay.
Yeah, some of my kids come on, my mom and dad come on, my cousins come on, and you're kind of dealing with a whole different, like it's a whole ecosystem. These ships are 4 football fields long. They hold 9,000 people. They're 18 stories tall, 18 decks tall, and they're broken into various neighborhoods. There's 22 restaurants with 11 of them included, and there's stabilizers on the ship. So generally, you won't feel the ship rocking, 99% of the time, unless you're in rough waters.
Right.
But the ship is just beyond amazing with all the things that it offers. And so I bring the kids on, they have fun, and there's people that bring families on, there's people that are single that come on, there's people that just want to get away, there's older couples that are retired. So there's all different types of age groups that are on our cruise. Sometimes 3 or 4 generations of the same family are traveling on the same time with this cruise. And I in a really weird way, I did not intend it, but my travel agency became one of the largest travel agencies for Royal Caribbean. And we put hundreds of people on multiple cruises on Royal Caribbean. So myself, Paulette, and Mary became master agents for Royal Caribbean. And we help a lot of people more than just our group cruises. So we book people year round. There's people going on a cruise next week and in a few weeks and all over. People are always traveling, and they're using our travel agency. And we have a great retention rate because we not only take care of them, but from the moment they book, from that point to final payment, which is 90 days prior to sailing, we re-roll them if there's any other discounts or sales and save them the money. And most travel agencies won't do that. We will re-roll the people and drop. There's people, the owners of Village Tavern in Schaumburg. I had saved them over $5,000 on their cruise and just keeping them in the same room, same ship, same everything, because there was a sale over Labor Day, and I just re-rolled them and saved them $5,000. And then people are like, why did they send over some chicken strips to the stage at Seventh Heaven? I go, because I just saved them $5,000.
Hey, from saving $5,000, you get chicken strips. It's a hell of a deal.
Yeah,
I love it.
They probably sent me $20 in chicken strips.
Hey, that's all right, man. Whatever works.
They win.
That's really cool though. And then you said, how massive these ships are, man. I can't believe it because it doesn't. Awesome. You see those things. I haven't been on one in like 25 years, but at the same time, it's just like, how the hell is that thing staying on the water? I don't understand it.
So a couple things. One thing I will say on this, while we touch on this subject for a second, you got to really make sure when you're booking a cruise, whether with us or not, you really need to pay attention to the ship itself. Do not just look at the destination and the price. Number one thing you look at, number one priority is the ship. Because if you go on an older ship, you're going to have a terrible time. You're not going to have the options to do all the things that you're able to do on a newer ship. So a lot of people completely overlook that. And that is why you really should talk to a travel agent or at least go on one of the chat boards and really educate yourself of what is being offered if you're going on a vacation so that you're maximizing the dollar value of your trip. That's why we have such a great retention rate, because I did all the thinking for you to say, no, this is the ship you want to be on. Not you don't want to be on this other ship because this other ship doesn't have stabilizers, it doesn't have redundancies, it doesn't have as many restaurants, doesn't have even food options, and that's important too. If you go to on an older ship, they used to make everything in one kitchen, and it was served in the dining room on a plate or on a buffet. It was the same food or room service, and there might be a pizzeria on there, and that you were stuck with those choices. When you go on this ship, there's 22 different restaurants. If you don't like something, go to the Italian, go to hibachi, go to the sushi, go to the steakhouse, go to seafood restaurant, go to the burger, go to the Mexican restaurant. You're like, man, there's so many options. The odds of you not being satisfied with food Yeah, on one of the cruises we go on would be shocking.
Right. It's basically a resort just floating around on
It's
the
a
water.
floating resort.
It's
It
basically what
absolutely
it
is a
is.
floating.
It's
I can
impressive.
tell you, I could bore people with the details of understanding the cruise ecosystem, and about why you would go on one over the other. And I usually can tell what kind of ship somebody went on based upon the reaction. They tell me, how was your cruise? And then the follow up answer to that, I kind of already know where they went. I kind of know what the kind of ship they went on.
Right.
I usually could pinpoint it to that's how much of a nerd I am. I could tell you, you were on the Carnival Liberty. You were on. That's whatever.
This shows your knowledge and passion for the subject, and I think it's cool because I like how you blended it with your music on the show, because I believe your music can appeal to all ages, and these cruises appeal to all ages and all different people, which is kind of cool. And then one more question on it too, because I always wondered. So on one of the longer ones, let's say a 7 or 8 night cruise like you got coming up in January and March, how many shows do you guys? I know you have multiple bands, but you yourself, Seventh Heaven, how many shows will you play on a 7 or 8 night cruise?
So we typically, I have the controllability to decide that. It's really it's relevant to this first factor has to come in. Are we going to be hired by Royal Caribbean on that specific week and ship? Sometimes we're hired as a headliner, and they will dictate our shows. They will put us on 3 45-minute shows in the theater, and then I add 1 or 2 other shows extra that are longer. Okay. On the weeks that sometimes the stars do not align because they want us to commit to their ships for 6 weeks or 6 months, and I'm not going to do that. So because it has to be, the stars literally have to align for us to be hired as a headliner. So normally when we go on, I'm actually utilizing group space. And so I can decide that. Now I have to pay for that group space on the sailings that we are not hired as the headliner. So now I have to be very conscientious about what type of expenses do I want to incur, because I'm going to have to pay for a sound guy and a light guy and a video guy from load in to load out, and how much of the room am I going to use. And I have to make sure that I'm making sure we're not intersecting with anything that's happening on the ship that people might want to see. So let's say Wizard of Oz or Back to the Future or Hairspray or Cats, the musicals are all happening, and the Aqua Show and all the other shows that are free. I want to make sure that the people that come in our group can experience all of those free activities without us taking them away from them. And so I have to make sure I kind of find these little areas to make them work. Typically on a week, we do about 3 shows, maybe 4. It just depends on how many. If I could do 3 for longer durations of time, then we do that. Usually 3 in a week is common. Sometimes we do only 2 if I'm bringing on a whole bunch of other bands and I have to give those other bands some time to play as well. We suffice our time for the other bands. So okay. That's kind of where it's at. We're between 2 and 4 on a typical week. Now, when we go in March, we're going on 8 night. So, we're probably going to be more like 3 to 4 than we would be on 2, because the week, another extra day matters.
Okay. Now, do you do anything special with your set lists when you do a show like that? Do you do it so, like, if you're going to play like 4 shows on an 8 night cruise, are you doing like
yes
4 different set lists?
Yes, yes. So what we do is, it's funny you asked that. I actually do strategize that if you came on, we'll play a different medley each night, so that you're not hearing the same medley. And then I try to mix up maybe an original or 2. We've discussed doing an all original set. The problem with an all original set on a cruise is, you have to remember there's 9,000 people that are on the ship. Of the 9,000, 6,000 are passengers, and we're bringing 500-600. So we're only bringing about 10% that are with our group that are aware of the band. The 90% of the passengers do not know anything about our band. And I don't know on a cruise if they would endure a 2-hour set or 98-minute set. The cruise ecosystem works very different than land. The shows are typically, they want you, the whole entire cruise ecosystem is get people to go into a show, entertain them, feed them, and get them to go to a bar for revenue and or the casino for revenue. That's what it is. It's a commercial to get you to go to those 2 destinations. So the people are programmed, unless you're seeing a Broadway musical, almost all shows are about 45 minutes on board because they don't want you there long. So we've discussed, we might do one where we do an all original set, maybe on the March one. Maybe we can get away with it. Yeah, usually we get in there. You got to remember that, like I said, 90% of the people are not knowing who we are. And because we are a hired headliner band for Royal Caribbean, we are allowed to bring in anybody on the ship that can come see us. Our shows are public. So that's a good thing because we end up picking up people that end up coming on the next sailing with us. So when we go on these cruises, not everybody's from Chicago. About 15% of the people are not from Chicago. We've picked them up over the last 20 years on different sailings from all across the whole United States and even over into Europe. Wow. So it's very interesting. And we look at that metric. We really break down everything analytically on, I can tell you the age group of people. I can tell you what country they're from or what state they're from. I can tell you how many times they've sailed. We have all those metrics. We pay attention to that because it helps me understand how to market it moving forward and how to keep a strong retention rate with our guests.
Awesome, man. There's a lot more. I learned a lot just there because that's so much that goes into this cruise that you do. And, it started out seeming like, hey, it was just this. I didn't even know how it worked. You want to know something else?
I'll tell you some other things, Mike, that's pretty crazy. Before we sail, I do a pre-cruise banquet dinner. We're not going to do one for the Utopia because it's a smaller group, but we do these pre-cruise dinner parties at a banquet in Chicagoland. And, that's, $5,000-$6,000 that I have to pay to put on a sit-down dinner. And I go through all the documents and train the people on all the documents for the pre-sale, make sure everything is done properly so that when they get on board, they can just enjoy the vacation. I'll help you get everything done prior to that. So your documentation, your passport, all the logistics are all taken care of. Not only myself, but Mary and Paulette, who are my two assistants on the Chicago Music Cruise and NTD Vacations. And then when we get on board, we have exclusive activities. We put together a week chart that tells you what's going on through the week. We have a help desk on board. We give you a bunch of free stuff to give on there. So when you go on the ship, free T-shirt, pens, glasses, a bag to go up, or like little trinkety things that you want to take with you. Maybe a water bottle, a USB charger, all different things that every year we mix it up, and luggage tags that we give away for free. And then when you're on board, we do a scavenger hunt that's exclusive to our group, where I'm giving away $1,000 worth of stuff, a free Apple iPad, a bunch of other gift cards and things to do, onboard credits, things that we do on our activities once we're on board. And then we have, like on the March cruise, we will have photographers with us that take photography of everybody on the islands and on the ship, formal nights. And then we have the ability for people to get those pictures when they get back, download them for free, and or get them ordered in prints, and also have a bounded book of the entire vacation. So that's something unique because most, when you go to Disney or on a cruise, they're going to charge you $20 a photo, and you have to make that decision right then and there. This way, you can come back and you could look through the photo gallery. In fact, if you go to the Facebook group of ChicagoMusicCruise.com and look at the photos, you can see thousands of photos of all the people that have gone for 20 years on all the different destinations and excursions and out on board, our shows. Everything that we do. So we do everything together. We eat dinner together. We have a singles meetup, and we do a pub crawl. We do a bunch of cool things through the week that you're not just going on a ship and then see you later. No, you're part of a family for the entire week, and we're going to make sure that you're taken really well care of. Wow. And there's so much more to it that I'm not even going into. I'm just giving you the cliff notes of it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure it sounds so involved, and I love how you create that community around it and everything.
Yeah, we have a Sailway Party that everybody goes to. We all get together at the Sailway Party with because you're meeting hundreds of people, and some of them you might have not met before because you live, in Arizona, or you live in California or New York or Florida, and we're in Chicago. So everybody meets up, and we do a lot of really cool stuff together. With music trivia together, and that's why I bring on like Scott Childers from the radio station. I brought on Tim Smith of Walter Smith. I brought on comedians. I brought on different bands, all different styles of bands. It's really cool. Tony Ocean's coming on. Hillbilly Rockstars is coming on. Mojo's Jukebox. There's a bunch of other bands that come on. Frankie Hollywood Rodriguez, he's a DJ that was with Jumpin' Julian Perez. He's coming on. A bunch of people coming on the ship, and I let them, it's just a fun week. I mean, you will literally smile almost the entire week and then leave and go, that was amazing.
And then you want to come back and do some more. And
you want to do it again, right?
Exactly. So Hey,
You
and
know?
it's just great what you do, man. Like, you have the music and you put people together, and that's what music can do. It brings people together. But another thing, to switch over to why we're here, is something that doesn't seem to bring people together that we're going to talk about. And that's American politics, especially over the last few years.
Sure.
So, I know we went into a total positive place there, and I'd like to start the show off positive. And I think we can still keep this thing positive.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I've been following you for years, on social media and in other ways, and you've become very vocal about how you feel about our country and how you feel about how it's run and how it's been run by a certain party for quite some time. And I just wanted to kind of shoot the shit with you a little bit because I feel your passion. I share a lot of similar views with you. And I know, just to put it out there for everybody and for you, just to, a little background for me here, I hate the how polarizing that politics has become right now. And I can't wait for this election to be over. And I just hate how it is. And like you said, how we bring people together in a certain way, but this is not bringing people together. But I want to talk about what's right and not and what's not, because this is totally opposite. So for the upcoming election, there's polls out there and there's different ways to see who's where. What do you trust, Richie? Like, what do you trust? Who do you trust out there? Like, what source? Do you have a source you trust when they give you the polls and who's
None?
Nothing, right?
None, because they have proven to be untrustworthy. That's the problem. What do I trust? The pulse that is around me when I talk to people. My gauge is what I trust, because what I see. But then again, that's just in my world. And my world isn't everybody else's world. So I get that. I understand that. I have a very fair perspective of the entire thing. Like when you look at if we rewind, like, I did not grow up in a political house. My mother and father never spoke about politics. Never. We were not a political household. I didn't care about which party was in. I probably agreed with both of them at different things and disagreed with both of them at different things, and saw the successes and the failures of both, and always said, well, let's just look for a good batting average, because that's a fair way. We've grown so accustomed in our world that we look for perfection. And the problem is, human beings are not perfected people. We are imperfected. So we have to enter the scope and lens and say, we're going to be around people that are imperfected. So if you look for perfection, you're already setting yourself up for failure.
I agree. Absolutely.
So you have to be fair in the assessment. Really, a better way to look at it is, how do we get our best batting average of what's our best batting average? We're going to have some failures, we're going to have some successes, but let's have a more success rate than failure rate, and that's a good batting average. That's a fair way to look at it, because at least when you have the failure, you don't give up, and your ambition is not gone, and you're not losing faith and hope in what can be achieved successfully. And so that, right off the bat, I've noticed that is, we live in it's like a Disney Hall of Presidents world, where everybody's looking for a president that is cut and chiseled and dresses right and he speaks right and perfect, and the tie's perfect and the hair is perfect. And, but the problem is that while that looks nice, that's not really who we are as people. We're a group of imperfected people. So I don't know. I've always given that. So along every president, Democrat or Republican, I've always looked at them as imperfected. And I don't dislike either one of them for their failures. I'm really focusing on their batting average of policies. That's exactly what I'm looking at. Yep. And that's where my razor focus is at. And I have a lot to say about what I see and my opinion of that.
Sure. And that's what I definitely want to hear from here. And I like what you said about perfection, because what I think perfection is perfection's an extreme. And that's what that is. And
it's an aspiration. It's an aspiration that we have as people. But but there's nothing wrong with having an aspiration and a hope and a faith to get there. But the reality is that history has proven none of us have gotten there. Maybe God,
and that's right. Exactly. God, that's about it. But
that's about it. One guy out of billions.
Exactly. But here's the things too, like when you focus on perfection, since it doesn't actually exist, then you just kind of focus on these failures, whether people do this to themselves, and that's where they get the low self-worth and everything. But like you could have X amount of great things going for one of these candidates or anybody within this thing, and then if everyone's just focusing on what's wrong, this is wrong, 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 like we're all focusing on the wrong, and actually the entire political system, the environment here, it really isn't very much, hey, this is what I'm going to do. It's way more of, that's why you shouldn't like that person on the other side, right? That's really all this is now.
What's even more interesting, if you even break it down even farther, most people are talking about getting to the same destination. We're arguing about the path to get there.
Exactly. Perfectly said. I said that. We all want the same thing. We all want the same thing. It's how we get there. And, I take an issue like, okay, the abortion issue, which we don't have to give our opinions on at all. But here's what I think. So you have the pro-life people, right? They are out to protecting this life within somebody, right? That's what their main focus is. But the other side, the choice people, will tell them they're out to control women and their bodies and they're evil. And then the other side, the pro-life people are calling the choice people murderers, when really all they want is the government out of their business and let them do what they got to do and decide for themselves. I'm not going to give an opinion on it because it's way too much to it, but I think that's kind of where we see things as how you can spin either of those.
Yes, you can spin both of them. It's like right? My body, my choice, only after I'm born.
Right, exactly. But let me be born first.
So
right?
I mean, I'm not a woman, so therefore I don't have a strong stance on it. It's unfortunate that it's unfortunate that that's even discussed. I think that if really the government should have nothing to say about when it's a health issue between a patient and a doctor, the government should step aside. I don't think the government should be part of that. While I say that, I also don't agree with like aborting a baby at 9 months because you don't feel like you want to have the baby because you were irresponsible.
Correct.
So I mean. So I see the arguments on both sides. I generally never really side with each other. Really, if I was running for president, I would say, listen, I hear both sides of you. You both make valid points, but we have bigger issues right now that we need to go past. So let's put that right now aside and let that go. As long as the women can do that, I don't think I think all states should allow the doctor to have a say, at least in the first trimester, and not ban that and just leave it and say, let's table that for right now because we have so many other greater major issues that have to be. Not that isn't an important issue. It's just I'm speaking what I would do because I really think to get to a happy end game with that, you really have to have both sides make an argument for their case and then come point of center to what can we agree to so that we can say, all right, everybody's agreed. We're as a human race, this is where we've evolved and where we are today. And because both sides have very valid points. And I really don't have a hard position on it because, like I said, I think we have greater issues. When I see millions of people dying around the world because of wars, that's more of an issue to me than having to abort a bunch of babies. There's still a path for women to get that done in America. It's not like it was taken away from them. And I think it's a misleading statement to say when they say Trump is taking away your rights or any Republican. That's not really, some are, I would say yes, but that's like saying that, every person that wears red shoes robs cars. Like, right. It's like, you can't just generalize that. You have to look at it from the bigger picture and say, well, we're generalizing. So yes, are there some Republicans that are very hard? You're absolutely not doing anything. Yeah, I'm sure there are in a few states. Yes, I think Texas was one of them. Right. But that's really a state legislative thing that really should be broken down. And if the state feels that they want to overturn that or fix that, then vote those people out. If that's really where that's at, and it's unfortunate that's where our focus is. But it's a shame that they're throwing that on Trump because he's not really saying that he's against abortions. He's saying he brought it back to the states. He agrees with them to be an abortion to happen in the first trimester. He's big for the IMF or whatever the in vitro. So I don't know why they keep claiming that he's not. I've watched that guy's rallies.
Yeah.
consistently said he's for all of that, and yet they literally paint him that he's not. And it really is because he put those justices into the Supreme Court,
Right.
and they feel that that was a collusion, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is, and that's what it is. I don't ever see him really speaking too heavily about that issue.
I have seen him speak about it.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be too big on his platform.
It's not his focus.
No, which is, it shouldn't be. I think
It's the Democrats' focus right now. The Democrat, you can't see an ad right now without it.
Oh yeah,
they're taking away the women's rights. Everyone's like, hey, Johnny.
I think personally, if you want my opinion, I think that's the Democrats doing that fear tactic thing of, hey, you're going to lose your rights if you vote for that guy. I don't believe that that's going to be the case. We've had Trump's already been here for 4 years. We've seen it now. This is not new that Trump is going to be in office. That's why these people that call, one thing that chaps my ass, and I'm not afraid to go all the way to one side on this, is when they refer to him as Hitler.
My God.
I think that unacceptable. And that is actually disrespecting 6.5 million Jews were murdered in the 30s and 40s in Eastern Europe. And I mean, that is ridiculous.
Why is he not going after a defamation of character claim in the courts? I would be, if they did that to me, I would first off, if it was me, I would fly my little plane right to that person's office with a live camera and be like, while they're on TV, and be like, why are you saying something that's not true? And why are you associating a guy? Those are two different kind of people. The problem is like they dangle words in front of Trump, and he's such a how would you say, like a layman's man. Like he doesn't know when to shut up. He doesn't know when to. They bait him, and they'll be like, "So let me get this straight. On your first day, you're just going to be like a dictator." And then he's like, he takes the bait and hook, line, and sinker. He's like, "Absolutely, if I have to be a dictator on day one," and they're like, "Oh, run with it. Print that as a headline." I'm like, dude, take it into context.
Man, I could tell you, man. There's so many times, because I'm not a Trump hater, but there are some times where I was just like, dude. If you just would have fucking stopped there, it would have been okay. You would have been fine. But you had to say that extra stupid piece that they're gonna
diarrhea of the mouth.
He does.
The problem is that, and everybody in the world, I think, knows that. However, when I pull myself away from it, I'm like, why would he do that? But then I see the whole big picture. If somebody's going to come after you, your family, your assets, and belittle you and attack your character and do all these character assassinations and misclaims, you have to fight back. And I get it. I think I would have a different approach of it. I'd be a little more respectful and accountable versus name calling back. That's what I would do. I wish he didn't do that, but at the end of the day, he's an imperfected person, and he's gonna handle it how he wants it. Some people handle it violently, some people ignore it, some people name call back. It just, it's what he is. I'm not hiring him for his acumen. I'm hiring him for his policies that he's putting forth for the better of our country.
Exactly. And we will touch on those, because I have a rundown here, and we'll kind of discuss them one by one. But for now, I wanted to put out there, I'll tell you what I look at. And I don't even think this is like the polls. I ignore them. I don't care if it's CNN, Fox, MSNBC. It's all bias. What leaves the bias out, in my opinion, are the betting odds. I'm not a gambler. I used to be, but I'm not very much anymore. But when you look at the betting odds, that's what leaves out bias, because you can place money. You can bet money on these candidates, which is very degenerate in my opinion. But hey, some people want to do it. As of right now, as of today, Donald Trump is favored -200 to Kamala Harris's +170. If you're not a bettor, that means you have to lay $200 down to win 100. To bet Trump. If you lay $100 down, you win 170 if you bet Harris. So therefore, as of right now, in the betting odds, Trump is favorite. Now, in 2016, Hillary was clear-cut ahead, and look what happened there. So who knows, right? Even
it's also who are they asking?
Right.
And also, most conservatives do not look for validations through metrics. They're in terms of their self metrics, they're gonna just go out and vote, if they even get off their ass and vote. That's the problem. Is some of them are like, they just throw their hands up in the air, like people in Illinois. Well, who doesn't matter anymore? I'm like, no, you can't think that way. Illinois once was a red state.
Right. And just to further to just throw it out there a little bit more. So like I said, the betting odds have Trump as the favorite. But I went to this, what is this, 270towin.com, and they have the live state by state polls and then the aggregate national, which right now gives the edge to Harris by 1%. However, they have not put all the states' polls in this just yet. So that's what we're seeing right now, 1 week out.
It's hard to look at the polls when you see the level of election frauds that
it means
like,
exactly.
What does all that poll mean when it's a show that we're in theater right now.
Right, exactly. It's total theater, and it's not just one side. Look, it's not like, everyone knows that Trump was very vocal and still is, because I just listened to him on Rogan, and he's very vocal about the cheating that was done, the rigging in the 2020 election. But
I saw a lot of it.
Oh yeah, and I don't doubt it. I mean, I went to sleep that night. He had a wild lead, and then I woke up the next day, and I checked. The first thing I checked was the betting odds, and then all of a sudden, boom, Biden's the major favorite. I said, "What the hell happened overnight?" And I'm like, "That's bizarre." But then again, to play it fair, in 2016, the Democrats wouldn't shut up about Russia collusion. So everyone, they see it's just like almost childish to me that we are adults. We are the leader. We're going for the leader of the free world, probably the biggest seat in the world, and we're worried about cheating and fraud and all this stuff. It's very demoralizing, to be honest with you, that a bunch of people that are doing this still. And like for me, like when I was young, as you get older, I talked about midlife crisis and things that just demoralize you. You start to see that certain people you thought had it together just really don't. And now it's just like, man, I don't know if any of these people have this shit together, It's like
I always use the phrase when I'm making points about that. I go, we truly are underperforming our human potential by all of that. Like literally, like we're just hurting each other. Like, and that's the problem. We have such potential as a country, as a nation, and in terms of people, and we fall so far short when we're cheating with elections and giving misinformation. And I mean, shame on some of the media. My gosh, shame on them.
They're the true enemy, Richie. They're the true enemy of the people. It's the media, is what it is.
I mean, when they're literally skewing information, they're supposed to be, independent and giving just, hey, look, there's a thunderstorm outside,
yeah.
Like, no, that's from the Martians of Venus. Like, what?
Yeah, all kinds of shit.
It's just like I just make things up out of thin air. And and really, when you look at why are they doing it? They love the ratings. They love to piss off people and cause strife. And like all these people, like having anger and like if you look at anxiety and depression in America, it's off the charts in the last 10, 20 years. Like it's off the charts. It's completely correlated to how we live our Western culture based upon what we're being thrown at by the media. If you there's an island off of India called the Sentinelese Island. The Sentinelese Island are people that have been living on this earth over 80,000 years. Okay? That's like, what, 78,000 years before Jesus? Mm-hmm. So they have no electricity, no media, none of the things that we have in Western culture. I'd be willing to bet if they went and tested those people, they probably have no idea what anxiety and depression even is. We have it running so rampant that they're jacking kids with Ritalin and things, just all the ADHD and all the different emotionality disorders that are happening. And that's happening. We're doing that to ourselves through our food and through the way that we're reading our culture for the next generation. We're like, really, when we really pull ourselves away from it, these politicians are not, well, the president one is only in for a short period of time. They're not going to be in forever. I saw a meme the other day that made me laugh. They should have let Trump win last time and not cheat. He'd be gone now.
Yeah. Right. You'd be through it right now.
He can't come back.
Yeah, you'd be done.
I kind of laughed at that. I thought that was fun.
And that's true. And then you're like, the areas you're talking about are similar to what I think, like the blue zones. Have you heard of those? Like these certain areas are called the blue zones. If you look them up, there's like, they're in Japan, and those areas are just, they eat like very pure, clean foods. They don't have a lot of access to media like you're talking about. They lived into their to 100.
Yeah, they live long, very
you know,
little health issues, right?
where we are now, like you said, we're all just really medicated, which is also medicated is also a very good Seventh Heaven song. Everybody,
Oh, thanks.
that's a very good one from the past. But anyways, but yeah, no, we're a Medicate for society, right? So we're not looking to do this ourselves. And when you get on pills, you start taking these drugs, and then what happens is that it'll maybe alleviate something, but it'll create a side effect in you that will for more medications. I don't. Some cases there are medications needed, and they do help people. So, and that's not all. And I think, when I say that, I always have to preface it with look, I'm not talking about all medications. I understand that there is some good to Western medicine. But like, I think the problem is the all or none mentality that we have in this country, where you need to be all in on everything that is said. Like, someone will come up to me, and the kind of you were talking about your batting average is like, oh, this and this, I didn't agree with this about Trump. Oh, you don't agree with that about Trump? Why do you support him? Go, because I agree with this, and this. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, you want me just because I dislike, oh, you disagree with that, you have to denounce him completely. It's like, no.
He picked his nose in the third grade. You can't like him.
Right. He said, I mean, the most ridiculous one to me was in 2016 when they were getting on him for saying the recording from 11 years prior saying you grab him by the pussy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So big deal. Locker room talk. Yeah. That's
right. That's like when I watch these. Yes. Go ahead.
But the key, the main factor of that is that he's running against a woman whose husband defiled the Oval Office, and it was proven in the office, and she stuck with him after that. It's disrespectful. Like, you talk about disrespecting women and yourself. If any other woman was respecting herself, she's getting out of that relationship. I'm sorry. Your husband defiled an intern in the Oval Office, in the office.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is amazing.
The hypocrisy is terrifying at this point, to be honest with you. So
I love how the Christians they're like, if you're a Christian, you can't like him because he's like Hitler. But never mind all those abortions.
Oh, right, exactly. That's not genocide.
Never mind all those God-given gifts that God gave you, that
right
gift of life. Never mind that.
Forget it. No, I mean, to me, like we said, abortion is what it is. It is the interference of humans with the process of life. Bottom line, it is. But whether we do it or not is besides the point. But we won't keep going on that, because I'm sure it'll come up here, because I have a few issues, and we'll hear your side of things, your thoughts. We won't go too deep into it just because. So I pulled it up on the BBC. I know they can lean a certain way here or there, but you know what? I found that they're just to the point, little succinct here on some of the major issues, the stuff that you're talking about that really is, a hot button issue here. So the first one they put up is inflation. And Harris has said that her day one priority would be keyword trying, to reduce food and housing costs for working families, where Trump has promised to end inflation and make America affordable again. And when he's asked, he says he's more for drilling, or he says more drilling for oil will lower energy costs. So these are those are the stances sort of for inflations. I don't know, how do you feel about any of this inflation, because I don't know who to trust on it. I feel like, due to the fact that we're under it right now, I know there's different factors in play. The president doesn't have all the control over it, but who's your best shot to reduce this inflation somewhat?
When you go into the ecosystem of inflation, that's coming in typically to economics. And when you look at economics, you have to look at America as a business. It really is legitimately one of the biggest businesses in the world, if not the biggest business in the world. So you have to look at the value of the American dollar. Typically, the world is worked off the value of the American dollar, and China has constantly been trying to challenge that to go off of them as a global currency, to be off of China, the yen. They don't want it to be off the American dollar, because when everything works off the American dollar, everything falls into play off of the value of that. And right now, that's being challenged, and not only being challenged to be the major currency, but the value of that currency, of what's the value of the dollar. Well, you can only do so much. I think the government has given too much control to the Federal Reserve, and allowed them to act as an independent source And the problem is I see it from two sides. You want the government to control and regulate it, even though I'm not a fan of a lot of regulation. But the problem is when you add corruption within regulation to the Federal Reserve, that we have a major problem. You can literally destroy and wipe out the whole value of the whole way the whole thing works. But when you look at the value of the dollar, inflation happens when the Federal Reserve is jacking up the rates too high because we're not paying our debt and deficits. And the thing that there's so many metrics that get thrown out that are unfair metrics. When they're like, oh, Trump left the people with the biggest deficit. Well, they're not considering that COVID happened. And when you backwards math, COVID happened, and the government, both sides, were abusive of spending way too much money to keep people afloat when they should have just let the people continue to work and do their jobs and really just told them how to navigate their health effectively. So to me, you have to really look at the backwards mathing and go back even farther back and say, how did that start? How did COVID start? And you have to look at that was a major thing that disrupted the economy, which affected inflation. And when you look at it fairly and truthfully, we, as I think it was the Obama administration, a Democrat, funded the Wuhan lab. So why would you fund the lab? Why would you fund a lab to play God? Let God play God. So when you fund the lab, I'll never forget this. In September, I want to say September of 2019 or October, somewhere around that time, we had gone on a cruise, not too in January. But I remember when I was planning, I was working on one of the cruises one night, and on TV, they said the CIA has busted a professor out of Harvard that was transferring biological material between the Wuhan lab and America. And I remember when it came across the news, I was like, wait a minute, wait. That red flagged me right away. I'm like, first off, why would somebody from Harvard, who has all the resources and money in the world, not do those tests in an American lab? Why is he messing with a Wuhan lab where they can blame China and use them as a scapegoat? And ironically, here we are right after that. Here comes COVID. And I'm like, wow. And a lot of people have never looked that up. But if you look that up, look up professor by CIA arrested for bringing biological material in and out of America, out of the Wuhan lab. So when I saw that, I was like, I remember that. And then when they'll say COVID did, I go, wait a minute. I remember when that started, when these guys are playing God, jerking around with materials. The problem, is that it starts off with one. They were probably trying to figure a way to control a virus so they can kill the virus. But then, again, when you add the word corruption, which is the worst thing that human beings deal with, corruption, because when you add corruption to probably a honorable thing they were trying to do, now you add corruption to it, and now they're managing it. And if you mismanage something like that, look at what ends up happening. You have a global pandemic. And then when it gets farther to the point where during that pandemic, they're suppressing virologists, epidemiologists, and doctors that have solutions for those people to get better and treatments that could actually effectively work and save lives. They suppress that information, yet they let Bill Gates act like he's the Messiah, a person who stole intellectual property from Apple to start Microsoft. And he goes on the Today Show like he's, the Messiah of health. Yet he's not an epidemiologist, not a virologist, not a thing. I bring the COVID metric whole conversation into this because they're correlated to why the government spends so much money. And when they spend so much money and put our deficit so high, the Federal Reserve was not getting the cash into it. The thing that when I make a post about all the businesses closing, people are looking at the surface metric. Oh, their coffee sucks. Oh, their food is not fresh. Oh, their service was bad. They're looking at the top metric. They're not paying attention to the bottom denominator metric, that our economy is work on a cycle of cash. Every single time that we go and work and earn money and then spend money and then buy another product and that company buys products, we're cycling cash. Every time that cycles cash, the money comes into taxes into the government that can hit the deficit. And they're paying attention to the numerator, pay attention to the denominator. Forget the numerator. They're watching the wrong metric. Like, I don't disagree. Yes, their coffee sucks, or that. I don't even drink coffee, but whatever. They make valid points. This is wrong or that's wrong. But they're not looking at what ends up happening in an economy when you're killing so much business. Our job loss rate is killing businesses, closing rate, businesses taking their companies overseas somewhere else. When you stop the cycle of cash into our economy, you start stifling the value of the dollar. So the Federal Reserve's like, well, we're going to have to raise the rate because we got to pay this deficit. Our deficit is so high that we can't even cover the interest of it right now. That's how bad it is. And because when interest rates go up too high, you can't even hit principal. You're just bleeding money, hemorrhaging it. And so you need somebody to understand economics to go in to fix that. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris does not understand economics. As much of a jackass as Trump is with his mouth, he understands the metrics. Is he perfect? No, but his batting average is very good. He still sustains multiple businesses, has some failures. Now, when you listen to why those failures happen, usually it's because of the performance of a worker that didn't do a good job, or he made a bad investment, or he did something wrong. He's not going to be perfect. But from an economical standpoint, I believe that Trump absolutely can fix inflation and fix the economy because he's a businessman. And I don't think we should ever not have a president that doesn't understand economics and business. Absolutely. Not a talking point, no, an actual factual working point that you understand with the strategy what you're going to do because you've effectively done it before. And these people just talk in hypotheticals. Oh, we think we're going to do this. Well, with Kamala Harris, you've had 3.5 years going on 4 years. Your strategy should actually be in play today. So when you have shown by actions, not words, that you haven't found an effective solution for that, then I don't think you should be running our country. That's on that topic.
I totally, you nailed it, man. I don't have even much to add to that. I also think, when you look at the two, if you just judge by the personalities, a career politician versus a businessman, and a man with a large ego, Donald Trump has a big ego. I'm not going to deny it.
Mike, you need to have a big ego when you have to go up against other actual dictators.
Right. No,
when
absolutely.
You have to go up to China. Let me give you a perfect example of this, Mike. Why you need a guy like Trump. I'm going to give you the best example ever. Okay. When you look at China, I love China. I respect China's people and their culture. I don't like the Chinese Communist Party for this reason, because you already know that they socially score their people by looking at their facial recognition software. They're the creators of it. I don't know if you know that, but they have facial recognition software that's all over their whole entire country, that if you're walking through somewhere, they know, the Johnny stole a pack of gum when he was 6. Therefore, he can't leave this province because he has too many strikes against him. He's a bad guy. Okay, so when we already know that this country is, by their government, has already socially scored people by their batting average, we already know that they're aware of what every one of their citizens do. Okay, so that you have to set that standard. Then when you fast forward and you see numerous times that they steal our intellectual property, they steal Apple products. There's Apple stores that are in China. You can look them up right now that do not exist by Apple. They're not an Apple product. Yet there's an Apple logo outside. All their products inside say Apple. All the employees have an Apple thing. The receipts say Apple. And then the phone blows up on the plane. They're like, how'd that happen? And Apple's like, we want to see the phone. And they're like, oh, that's a counterfeit phone. And then that hits the black market and it devalues the intellectual property of Apple. So that happens there at a Coach Purses. But really the one that really is the glorified one is look up 60 Minutes Lumber Liquidators. 60 Minutes went and bring 3 undercover cameras into China and showed that they were putting non-Carb 2 compliant flooring into lumber liquidators, and it was going into all the Americans' homes and killing people with cancers, Hodgkin's lymphomas, and thousands of times the particles off the charts. And it's so bad that it made lumber liquidators be LL Flooring. And from what I heard, LL Flooring is now going out of business because I can't believe they were even a business the next day. Their stock plummeted. Now, you have to realize that when China is aware that that's happening, and on camera they say, we just stamped this so the Americans buy it and think that it's safe. And the Chinese government is aware of that. You have to challenge them and say, hey, listen, if we're going to do commerce together and business and trade, we cannot just jerk each other off here. This is bullshit. You have to be fair and honest because we care about the human being. We care. Let's make money all we want. We can find ways to be very profitable. But we have to make sure that we care about each other if we're going to trade things like food, like a lot of these food. If you look at, I think it's Jolly Green Giant. I believe a lot of that food is coming in from China. There's a few of them that are coming in. Look, when you go shopping, look in the frozen vegetable area is a couple places, a few areas, and you'll say imported from China. It might say manufactured in Illinois or in America, but it's not. It's actually they bring it into China. They put the label on it so they can say that it was packaged in America. Doesn't mean manufactured in America. Packaging and manufacturing are different. So the problem is that when you see China doing that, where they're constantly compromising our safety and health to American people, you need a ball-busting president that goes and says, hey, bro, before the photo shoot and before we trade more shit, we got to make sure that we're going to take care of each other. We're not going to harm each other. We're not going to harm your citizens. You have to not harm ours. And that right there is happening as you and I speak right now. Right now, all of what I just said is true. And you can easily find and verify that that's happening. Yet, Trump is the only politician in my lifetime, and I'm 54 years old, that I've ever seen call China out on any of that. So therefore, yes, that's why I want Trump in. If he doesn't do it, I'll go there and bust their balls.
No, I love it.
I'll go there and be like, listen, man, I love your country. I love everything. I wish you weren't so mean to your people, but let's find a way to be fair and treat our people fairly and healthfully, being healthy. So people aren't dying. It's crazy to me, and that's what's going on with why I like a guy like Trump to go against China.
Yeah, yeah, and I might write you in for president right now. I mean, I like that. I like what I'm hearing right now. But yeah, and it goes along with kind of he's partnered up a bit, and RFK Jr. Right? He's kind of switched parties a little bit here with the Make America Healthy Again.
Yeah, let's talk about that for 1 second. So the RFK angle, first off, I think RFK is probably one of the best moral people I've ever seen in politics in my lifetime. Like, is the guy perfect? No, but again, I'm not looking for perfection. But I truly believe he cares about the people. And this is the problem I believe we have in politics today. And this is why I speak my mind. I don't believe most of the politicians actually care for one another without wanting anything in return. And I can tell you, as somebody, I care for people without wanting anything from them. I can do something for somebody and not be like, now what are you going to do for me? I don't think like that. And life is very rewarding when you give yourself freely to others, you help others, you make them feel good. That's empowering to your soul. That's more valuable than some bullshit check you're going to get from money of some nonsense for power. And I wish our politicians understood that. I do not believe, based on their actions, that people are doing those things where they don't understand, care for one another without wanting something in return. And so I think RFK does that. When we look at our food supply, there's no doubt about it. When we look at human health, especially in America, we are one of the most unhealthiest nations in the world. If you looked at a photo from 100 years ago of a city's, look up Chicago Street 1900. 1910, 1920, everybody on that street is pretty healthy. Nobody is massively morbidly obese. Everybody's generally, and diabetes wasn't even on the chart. Autism was on the chart. Angelman syndrome wasn't on the chart. You would never hear of these things. You might have some kids with Down syndrome, and that would be maybe about it. And maybe a birth defect here or there, but you wouldn't see the mass right now. Everything that we have, we're all majorly overweight. I'll tell you something crazy. I've been doing an independent little personal study because I like cereals. I've been buying cereals from around the world of the same cereals that we have. Fruit Loops from Canada, Pops from Mexico, whatever. And I bring them in. I'm looking at them next to each other. Cookie Crisp from the UK. We are way over sugared in our diet. If you looked at our American diet, it's no wonder why the pharmaceutical companies just pumping us with medicines, because they're not taking care of our nutrients. If you watch a cardiologist named Dr. Gundry, he talks about how we've depleted the nutrients in our soil, and we've depleted the nutrients in our soil. So now you and I would have to eat like 11 bananas to equal the same nutrients our grandparents would eat with one. And when we do that, we're really hurting each other. We're literally killing off our own species, all for the sake of power and money. money. I'd be willing to bet that if a good politician went to the food manufacturers and said, listen, we're going to get rid of all these false chemicals that are in our food. In fact, if you look at anything you buy at the store now, it's going to say it contains bioengineered ingredients on the bottom of the package. Every single cereal you have in your house and every single chip and everything you have is going to say contains bioengineered. It's all coming off the wheat. So they're propagating it with these chemicals. So if we went to those manufacturers and said, hey, listen, we want as a country, we unified and said, we do not want any of those harmful chemicals anymore. And we know you are doing that to yield a greater yield to your crops. Why don't we make an agreement? We as consumers will agree to pay 10 to 20% more for the product if you agree not to manufacture it. Because on the short side, we pay more for a product. However, on the long side, our health is not compromised. We'll not have to pay for pills. We won't have to pay for doctor appointments. We will live longer. We won't have heart attacks, strokes, diabetes. We won't lose limbs. We won't go blind. We won't fuck up our own health because we would take care of ourselves over the duration of time by just fixing that one basic problem. And Kennedy is the only person I've ever seen actually truthfully go, we really need to address this. I can't believe that and that's a fault on both parties, Republican and Democratic, that they've allowed that. And they've allowed that because I know what's happening. What's happening is the major food manufacturers like, we want to add this. And some politicians like, well, we really shouldn't. He's like, well, we got a big check for you. They paid this guy his check, and then he's like, okay, yeah, I'll let this bill pass, and it's probably buried in some other bill of 80,000 pages, just to fix, they're going to study worms, whether like to fart in public or not, like that's going to be 80 million for that. And versus all of our laws should be one paragraph, only one page, and that's it. Yeah. That way, your progression would be so much faster and more efficient. But anyways, when you look at that from that understanding, when they let that happen, I want to go back to that guy and say, you allowed this food manufacturer to make products that are going to be harmful to human health. Don't you care about your children and your grandchildren? And then they'll be like, well, I can keep my kids away from that. I'd be like, yes, but what's going to happen when your grandchildren meet the other person and that other person from another family was not protective with it? Your kids are going to be messed up. I go, you're short-sighted on your decision. When you do make decisions that are not for the health and well-being of humans, you shouldn't be in power.
Exactly. No, I agree with you, and that's exactly how it's gone down. And to build upon it, as you know, this is actually a health and wellness podcast. So I know I've been deep into this, but outside of even the ingredients and the crap that's in there that has been known to link to cancers and other diseases, the satiety of our food has also been reduced through the massive processing of it, the ultra hot processing of it. And what that does, it gives you all the sugar and the calories in your body, and it processes it. A calorie is a calorie, no matter what the ingredients is. Right. So what that does, it gives you the opportunity to just continue eating. And what does that do for the food corporations? It gets you to buy more. So if a bag of potato chips can be eaten in one sitting and you're barely full, that means you're just going to probably go to the store and get a bag of chips even sooner. If a bag of chips filled you up, half of the bag filled you up, and then you would be buying less. So it's both things. It's both the nutrients and the calories. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to tell you the most craziest story. So my cousin Sean Hofherr owns the Hofherr Meat Company. The Hofherr Meat Company is a resurrected company that was around years ago, and it used to it is a major butcher that did food for like the Berghoff Hotel and all these other places around Chicagoland, high-end restaurants. So my cousin's resurrects the butcher company, and he ends up going to all the farmers up in the Midwest, in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And he comes back, he tells me the most craziest story, that Monsanto could go over to a farmer and say, we want you to buy our genetically modified seed that is resistant to Roundup so you'll yield a greater profit. And the farmers would be like, no, we really don't want to do that. We want to keep our stuff organic or whatever. And they're like, no, you need to do that. And on a windy day, they would go back and throw the seeds up and propagate this land. And then they would subpoena the land in court. And the lawyers for them are much greater than some farmer is going to be able to afford a lawyer. And they would beat him in court and then make him have to pay a royalty to Monsanto. To me, that is the most evilest thing ever. And literally, this is where the federal government should be stepping in and saying, listen, this is a choice. You cannot do that to a farmer. You're not only ruining the farmers, but you're also ruining their crops and then killing the people. Like, if you can't look around you and you can't see in the last 100 years, we've destroyed human health. And we're going in the wrong direction. I don't know how big your blinders are. Like, dude,
I don't know I'm scared because I'm terrified of that because to unravel what we're
it's
in.
gonna take some time.
Oh yeah, you're not going to do it in one presidential term.
No,
you're not going to do it.
You have to fix the soil, the nutrients, and you have to fix a lot of that. It's amazing when I see, like, again, going back to Bill Gates, the Messiah. He goes on TV and he's like, "Oh, we have a food supply." I'm like, dude. The Italians and Greeks, they live off of the Mediterranean diet, and which is mostly off the ocean, and we have only explored 5% of it. So you're going to tell me that the Earth doesn't have enough food to supply itself? We actually have enough food to supply it, and if we weren't stupid and ruined our crops and depleted our soils, we would have more than enough to build our plants. And if you ate a plant and seafood diet, you would be pretty healthy. I don't think those people are having open heart surgeries, strokes, diabetes, cancer.
No, not at the rate we've got it going on over here, and that's clear cut obvious. And I'm not going to eat any of that Bill Gates Frankenmeat crap that he's going to. No.
Yeah, I made a post about it, and I had 2 or 3 people. Of course, they're Democrats. Are like, "Where are you getting this information?" I go, "Off the company's website that says if you want to buy it, you can buy it right now. Yeah. Here you go. Place your order, add to cart." You're lying. It's on the company's website.
Right there. The denial and the delusion out there is out of the control. That's actually scary in itself.
Yeah.
And then, to continue here, another big one, obviously every year it's always going to be taxes, right? Harris wants to raise taxes on big businesses and Americans making $400,000 a year. But Trump's, he's proposing more tax cuts worth trillions, including an extension of his 2017 cuts, which mostly help the wealthy, according to this site. But he says he'll pay for them through higher growth. And the big thing that's been kind of put out there is the tariffs on the imports. Now, I heard him say or suggest, and I don't think this will ever happen, is the tariffs and imports are going to replace or reduce federal income taxes. I think that's a great idea because but there's 2 ways to look at this one too, right? Because if tariffs come in and they're taxed, and that's going to go in heavier costs, right, to the corporations that are just going to raise the prices on consumers. However, we're going to get a choice, right? We either buy the product as is, rather than it just being accepted right of our paychecks. Am I understanding it correctly, or what do you think of that?
Yes. So I have a whole interesting situation with tax. Yeah. So I independently own 15 corporations. And within the 15 corporations, I have to pay my federal and state tax, and I have to pay my personal. So I pay 32 tax returns a year. So I understand taxes very well. I pay a lot of them. I have multiple properties I have to pay tax on. So I have no problem paying a tax. I think a tax is contributing to the overall general consensus of the government's need to manage itself as a company. The problem that I have, that I've had, actually, this is long before Trump. This goes back to I think it was under Bill Clinton. It was either under Clinton or Bush, one of the two. It might have been Bush, first Bush, the senior. I think one of them started doing these, where they do these deals where they're giving tax incentives to a corporation to build your company into another country. So in other words, if you were Motorola, and I'm just saying, let's say Apple. Apple's an American company. So let's say Apple, we're going to give you a tax incentive for you to build a plant in China or build a plant in Vietnam or India. We're going to give you a tax break credit if you do that. Whoever made that deal is literally a dumbass. Why would you give an incentive to take an American company and American jobs and make them leave America? Don't you want to take care of the Americans? Don't you want to make sure that the Americans have a job? Just look at Flint, Michigan. I mean, look at the car manufacturer. I love that Trump went there. And I love that he talked to them about building the plants, because yes, it's true. Under the Democrats, they are trying trying to build car plants in Mexico and other areas and then bring those cars into America. So what? We get to pay for them? Yes, we get a nice car. Yes, it was probably finally built in any country that builds it. I don't have a problem with the country building it, but who got the money? The company went to another country. So why are you enriching another country when we have debts and we have Americans who need to have a job and have money? You've taken away all the ambition away from an American worker. Look at what they've done when they take away, when they want to normalize the money, everything's free. No, you have to pay for a student loan. Everybody's equal in sports. Everything's all. Well, you've taken away the drive and ambition for a younger generation to want to thrive within. You've killed the ecosystem for them to thrive within. It's like being a fish in an aquarium, and then it became a big aquarium. It was first the ocean, then an aquarium, now it's a fishbowl, and then you threw dirt in the fishbowl. Why would you do that? Why would you not understand that when you are taking away all of those jobs, you're taking away, again, the cycle of money being earned, money being spent. All of the times that happens, the government gets their little hands in every part of it. In other words, Mike, you go to your job, they pay you a check. They've already deducted money out of that check, so there's tax number one. Now you got it in your bank. If you invest it, you're going to get taxed again on a capital gains. And then you go and buy a house, taxed again, and then you're going to get taxed on the real estate every month, the value of it every year. Then you're going to go take net money and go to the store, and you're going to buy groceries, taxed on the grocery bill. You're going to pay gas, taxed on gas. You're going to go to a restaurant. There's going to be a tax on the restaurant. You're going to tip. Everything that you're doing, you're paying taxes on. So if you stop that cycle, you're going to see the economy get affected. You're going to see people's jobs get affected. The value of the dollar get affected. You start seeing a trickle effect that happens from that. So when they look at tariffs are a way to build industry. When America has industry again, and we're the manufacturing king of the world, then you would have money cycled into America. Like, for example, the video screens that we use for Seventh Heaven. I probably dropped around $30,000 for those screens to bring in with all the other stuff. I had to buy those out of China because there's nobody in America that's manufacturing those screens. Because what high school kid has the ambition to do that? When they talk about a chip shortage, why are we buying chips from China? Why don't we have some college kids who are like, we're going to be the next chip manufacturer in America? When we really learned a lesson here when COVID hit and we needed PPP. And where do we get that from? China, because there's nobody in America manufacturing it. If we haven't learned to be self-reliant on manufacturing, tariffs are the only way you're going to make that happen. And I don't care what anybody says. That is shown. It's not a hypothetical wish list. It's a proven track record on history when you rewind 100 years. When we were in the industrialized revolution, we were doing things independently without needing the other countries. Do we want to work with them? Absolutely, as long as it's fair and the trade is fair. But the trade is not fair. Trump's the only politician I've ever seen that actually truly acknowledge it. We're not trading fairly around the world when we're importing everything, mostly from China and India and Vietnam and textiles and Mexico and nothing against those countries. We're just not. Are they buying our products? No, there's no way that China is buying a lot of American products. You want to know why? Because they're trying to be the global dominance of currency. And people who are not paying attention to that are really foolish to understand. And the byproduct of that is less ambition children who are watching TikTok and playing video games and not aspiring to do something in business because they don't see a way to thrive economically in their pride of what they're working, because the government wants everybody to be the same. Everybody wears the same. And what's the same? The communist China is the same. So was Hitler's, all the dictators, things that they're saying. They were always using the same outfit, same uniform, same process.
Right.
Usually it's a dictator kind of thing. Yet They claim that Trump's a dictator.
Yeah. They
Let's look
call
at the
him
actions of what your wish list is.
They call him that by words, but
Yeah,
their
let's
actions,
look at the wish list of what you're talking about.
right? Their actions say otherwise and can be reflected upon themselves just based on what they're doing.
I do think that tariffs can fix our economy. I think that manufacturing in America could come back, and that can totally help the value. And I really actually believe that our country can actually get its stuff in order. In fact, I totally love that Trump wanted to put Elon Musk into trying to cut the wasteful spending, because by cutting the wasteful spending, that's a guy. Yeah, when I see these lists, I put a couple of them on the last couple of days on my thing that Rand Paul had put up that the government wastes the money on. I've never saw it. It's like crazy things, money to study caterpillars. I'm like, what? And it's not like we're like dropping a couple grand. We're dropping millions and millions of dollars. And if you truly think it takes millions of dollars to study a caterpillar, I have a bridge to sell you.
I mean, come on, right? Like some killer unicorn insurance, or the time they were sending gender studies to Pakistan.
Gender studies on flies.
Oh yeah,
not on humans.
Not even on humans. We're gonna do it on flies.
The fly was like, this poo is not good for me, man.
I guess.
It's amazing. I want to sit in Congress and be like, here's your full of shit card. Here's your full of shit card. Here's yours.
There's a lot of full of shit cards you're gonna be passing out.
Do you want to know? You want to see the government be efficient? Every single bill should have one topic only. We agree to build this bridge on this timetable for this budget with these people, and if not, this is the consequence and the financial ramifications that you get suffered if you don't hit that milestone. Right. That's it. Sign it or agree. Not like, you're signing a thing for a bridge. Let me add this other little thing. Let me add this. That's where I see the argument when like Trump is telling them not to sign the close the border thing on immigration. I'm like, wait a minute, bro. First off, it's in the actual agreed and legislated Constitution. It spells out our immigration policy has already been agreed and legislated a long time ago. This isn't, you don't need another bill to do that. There's nothing else. Just enact the things that were already written into the Constitution. That's
Precisely. And
just respect the Constitution and we're good.
Right. And you help me segue perfect to the next bullet point, because this is the other big one, immigration. So, there seems to always be like kind of a revolving door of certain certain issues, I guess. Like I know taxes and all that are always there, and inflation now is a big one, but like it seems like there's a rotating, and there are always issues. I get it. There's always like a rotating importance of what it seems like immigration, abortion, and guns. It seems like there's always one that's like, holy shit, this is the one we got to care about right now. And with this election right now, it seems of those three, the immigration is the big one right now. It's the one that they're pushing. It seems like the shootings, they sort of go in and out in phases, and then gun control becomes this major issue, and then abortion's always up and down with certain things. But right now, it looks like it's an immigration deal, because it seems as if we have a problem of people crossing in illegally. What do you think about immigration? Do you think it's as big of a deal as it's being made out to be, as far as like rapists, murders, and things like that? Are these numbers accurate? Where are we at to where is this fear mongering by the right almost? Is this something that isn't as big of an issue, or is it? Because I've always questioned it. Hey, I believe personally that we should document everybody that's here just so we know who is here.
That's fair. It's fair.
I believe that we should know that just for like, hey, what kind of production do we need for like a business, right? You want to know how many employees your business has, right?
Yeah. So how many can we afford?
Right. How many can we afford? How much of this crop do we need? How much of this resource do we need? Goods and services. What do we need to make this country run correctly? And knowing that, and I do believe that these people, these undocumented, are actually somehow in the census. Is that right? I believe. But at the same time, why are we not doing legal citizenship? And are they really getting all these free phones and checks and everything like that? I don't know. Is this real? Is this not? Is this border issue that big of a deal, or is it a fear based?
Well, I don't know if you saw the graphic I put up over the last week. I'm the one who created the graphic, but to put things in perspective, if you take New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, and Philadelphia, That's a lot of people. That collectively, we've let more people into our country illegally than all of those cities combined. Do you understand that? Just to put it in perspective, Los Angeles has 8.2 million people. New York. New York has 8.2 million people. Los Angeles has 3.8 million people. Chicago has 2.6 million people. Houston has 2.3 million people. Phoenix has 1.6 million people. And Philadelphia has 1.5 million people. If you add up all these cities equal 20 million people, and we've let more than that into our country illegally. Imagine how vast. Think of Chicagoland. We live here. Think about the land of Chicago. That's a lot of people that we just let across the border. Now, it doesn't mean, laws of probability, more stuff probably find people. But the problem is there's a two-part problem. One, we've already caught numerous ones of them breaking our laws, overtaking our laws, completely disregards our laws that we have in America, beating up police officers, raping women, robbing stores, taking over properties, just to have a complete disregard. And what type of guest are you if that's what you're doing? You come into our country and you're beating up our police officers? I mean, what kind of respect is that? If they're beating up police officers who have the law by their side and a gun and trained, what do you think you and I are going to be to these guys? Just be honest. You got big muscles, so you'll be all right.
I try. But
somebody has the big muscles.
Hey, if they come from behind with a weapon, though, I'm fine.
Yeah, right. But that's a really valid point. What women can stand up to that? If they want to rape this women, they can't. First off, that's the one problem is the safety of Americans, that we haven't vetted them and really set a standard. Like, hey man, we'll let you in our country, but we have laws you have to agree to. Right. You can't just go roam around like this is free land. And when you find out that they're emptying their jails of murderers and rapists, that's kind of a problem.
Exactly.
Just imagine if you took John Wayne Gacy, a couple of these Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, and a few of them. If we just listed like the top Ted Bundy, like our top 10 worst criminals, and we let them loose into our society, people would have an uproar. We didn't just let 10, we let thousands of them.
Exactly.
And we're like, oh, no big deal. It's just a few.
Right.
Like, hello,
my
one
thing
is too many. But hold on.
Go ahead.
One thing, Mike, is that the other problem is that all those people are now taxing our resources and yet are not contributing to the tax system and paying taxes into the tax system. So not only are we already in a massive debt and deficit, now we have to go deeper into that to take care of. When you think about that, again, imagining you, your children and grandchildren have to pay for the amount of citizens that equal Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, and Phoenix. That's a lot of people, bro. If you just took one of them, Chicago alone, you're gonna have to pay for all these people to live for free and feed them and house them and clothe them. And educate them, dude. Who built that strategy?
Exactly.
Clearly not somebody that understands economics and business.
No, and I get it, and I get the human aspect of it, of not leaving somebody there.
I love helping people. Just do it properly.
Do it properly. I agree with you, because we're still hurting here, not speaking for myself, but just for certain people who are still struggling, who are U.S. citizens, who are paying high taxes, who are getting destroyed through our taxation, and then they have to go ahead and pay for all of these other people when they're trying to just build a good life for themselves and their children. I see that part of it, and that's the part of it that I don't care for the immigration of people. Just kind of, I just see it as disorder and disorganization in a sense in my head.
It's very disordered.
This is what I see. But for me, as far as like the crime and all of it goes, sure, I'm sure some of them bring in some crime, but I could sit there and agree with someone that says, hey, we've got enough people who are doing these heinous crimes that are legitimate American citizens.
We have a crime problem in America. We have a
absolutely,
crime problem.
Absolutely, and but it's, for me, I agree, and that's another whole other issue.
Just imagine if you and I had a coffee shop. You and I have a coffee shop, or Mike and Richie's Coffee, and we're in the city, and all of a sudden these people come in every single day and steal $500 to $900 from us, and you and I can't do anything about it. You've also taken that power away from the police, and these people get away with it, and they do that. Imagine every week, and they get away with it. That when criminals find that they can get away with it, they're going to do it again and again. They're going to tell their friends and then tell their friends and their relatives. And pretty soon you and I are getting robbed on a daily basis at $900 a day, and we can't do anything about it. And then what do you think? You think you and I are going to be able to stay in business with them eating our profits like that? Then they destroy our property, no accountability to that. And then what type of message does that send to the next generation? Let me give you a perfect example of why I stand on that like that. I needed an iPad. I thought I lost it. Ironically, somebody found it at Hofherr and returned it, which I was like, that's good. There's a good person.
Wow.
Yes, I had lost an iPad at Hofherr, and somebody returned it, and I got it back when I got back from my trip. But in the meantime, I didn't know I was going to get it back, so I went and buy a new one. I live in South Burlington. I was going to go over to the Target at 59 and 90, and they said, no, we don't have any in stock. I said, well, you have nothing in stock? No. So I went to the one in Streamwood, right down the street at 59 and Irving. So I go there. I go to get the iPad. I'm like, yeah. As I'm walking in, I see this guy walking in. I'm like, he looks like he's up to no good. He's smoking a cigarette. He doesn't see. He looks like he's about to shoot the place up. And I'm like, this place does not look good. And I'm with my sons, just me and my two sons. And I'm like, dude. And my kids are littler at the time. And I'm like, oh, dude. This guy picks up a TV and steals the TV right in front of my kids. Just picks it up, walks right out. That happened in 30 seconds. And I'm like, as he's walking out with it, I'm like, everybody, this guy's stealing the TV. This guy's stealing the TV. Nobody did anything. The guy just walks out with the TV. I then go over and I'm like, I can't believe this guy. And my kids are like, Daddy, did you just take that TV? I said, yeah, I just took that TV. You didn't pay for it. I go, no, he didn't pay for it. And they're like, what, is he going to get away with that? I go, I don't know. Hopefully not. Yeah. So then I go over to get the iPad, and the guy's like, are you ready to pay for it right now? I said, no, I'm going to give you other shop. He goes, I'll keep it back here behind the counter until you're ready to pay for it. I think I'm going to steal it. Like that guy just stole the TV. Yeah. So then I get by, I go by the manager. The cashier's like, did you find everything okay today? I said, yeah, I want to talk to the manager. I go, what have you done since I've been shopping here for 40 minutes? What have you done with that guy who stole the TV? I don't see any cops here. Well, we took his picture. We put in the break room look out for him for next time. I go, next time? He was in this store 30 seconds. I go, you call the police. Empower the police so they can maybe find this guy and go, there's that guy, Bobby. He stole a TV last week, you know? So then I have to now try to train my children to work hard for what they want to do. But in their mind, they're like, I could also just walk in and take it and leave because if it's under $900, no one's going to say anything. And then I go over to Meyer. I'm at Meyer, checking out, guy at the front door. How's the band? Doing great. I go, hey, man, you stand here every day at Meyer. You ever get anybody who steals? He goes, all the time. I go, what do you mean all the time? He goes, yeah, guys just fill up a cart and walk right out of here. I go, you mean just walk right out of here? He goes, yeah, but they just fill up their cart and leave. I go, what do you do? Nothing. As that conversation is happening, 3 on-duty rolling metal cops come in uniform, on duty. And I said, guys, you got a minute? They're like, yeah. I said, so let me ask you a question. If you were standing right here and we all witnessed somebody come out and steal something right in front of us, what do you 3 officers do? They look at each other and they go, nothing. I go, what do you mean nothing? What? They're like, well, this is private property, and unless they tell us they want to prosecute, we have to wait for them to say we want to prosecute. So then I'm like, so I go to the guy at work and I go, aren't you going to say something to the cops? He goes, no, we don't prosecute. So then I tried getting in touch with the CEO at Meyer. I'm like, I want to talk to you. I'm like, and they wouldn't let me talk to them. And it still bothers me still to this day, because what do we do in our society when we allow criminals to completely disregard our laws? Pretty soon we live in a lawless society. And at some point, what happens? And when those same people are trying to take away your guns, how are you going to protect yourself? When they devalue the power of the police, they devalue the crime, they make it seem like it's no big deal, burn down, like, oh, the insurrection of January 6th. But you feel free to loot and riot and burn down all these private buildings that have nothing to do with the George Floyd issue, that have nothing to do with it. We're going to burn down these buildings in protest. So all that can happen. That's what makes me not like the Democratic Party. Because when you look at it, you're unraveling society. And me as a parent, how am I supposed to train my kids to be like, no, we're going to respect each other. We're going to respect laws. I have a simple phrase on my guitar picks. It says, love each other, appreciate each other, and respect each other. It's such a simple thing. If you can teach that to every soul on this earth, we would completely mitigate majority of the wars and fighting that would happen. But when we have a disregard of our agreed laws that we've agreed, not to steal, not to hurt each other, not to rape women, not to burn down a building. When you disregard that and you let people loot and riot and do crazy shit, well, then what kind of society are we? Where are we heading as a society? That's something we have to consider that.
It is.
Because if you look at the crime stats, which again, Mike, they're falsifying. They're saying, "Oh, crime's down." Oh, but we're not going to let you know about Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and Detroit. But here, over in Saskatchewan, it's fine, and up in Montana, there's crime's fine. It's got better. Nobody's killing a moose.
Yeah, right. Well, crime's fine, but nobody's reporting the crime.
We live in a world of a circus of pure bullshit.
And exactly, and I say the same thing with guns because they demonize the guns so much, and I understand the reasoning for it. I get it. It's a weapon intended to kill, but at the same time, what there's not stats for are the amount of times a presence of a gun is there that saves lives, or you know what I'm saying, or the use or the mere presence of it stops something from happening. You can't record that, but if you have enough logic and you know what most gun users use them for outside of hunting and keeping them at home, but like, think about it. The fact that most of homes are armed, how many potential crimes does that prevent just having that,
Do you know that all these problems where they have a mass shooting doesn't have to do with the failure of the gun? It has to do with mental illness.
100%.
And in our country, we completely disregard mental illness. If you looked at your insurance policy would be very weighted in physical, like you have a disability of physically. You broke your arm, open heart surgery, brain surgery, you broke a leg, a cast, you need a new kidney, whatever. They would cover majority of the physical. They literally don't care about mental at all. They don't want to cover anything mentally. And the insurance company should be held liable for that. There should be no disregard for human being in a differential between physical and mental. It should be whatever's wrong with you, period. Whether it's eyes, mental, physical. That way the people that are mentally having a problem, they're taken care of. And we really wouldn't screw up our society if we weren't constantly lying and manipulating to them and constantly throwing violence in their face and making racist things when they're not racist. We can find a flaw in every single race, ethnicity, color, person that likes rock music, person that likes jazz music, guy that, makes cakes. I mean, assemble any group of people. Somebody in that group is a jackass, period. No matter what it is. The problem is the media loves to go, "Oh my God, look at that white cop beating up that black guy." Mm-hmm. And it's like, wait a minute. If we as a country were so racist, why are we filling sports stadiums with 60 to 80,000 people cheering on majority black athletes? Right. We have no problem with 99.9% of this country has no problem with the color of someone's skin. We just don't. I idolized Walter Payton, Michael Jordan, and Michael Jackson when I was younger. They're three black guys. I'm not a racist, not even close. Like I drew a Walter Payton poster because I was so idolized by his work ethic. And I get really pissed off when I watch them completely turn things into a racial issue. But yeah, it is what it is.
They've been shameless with that. I've even seen tweets and things by these hard lefts that just say that it doesn't matter. If you vote for Trump, you are a racist. There's no answer. There's no wiggle room. You have no wiggle room. I've seen this before in 2020 or so, and it's ridiculous. And you talked mental health, and there's a billboard. I don't know if it's still up or not. It's on 294 heading north out here in the Chicagoland area, and it's an awareness billboard, and I hate it because it says, "Did you know there's X amount of 63 deaths, suicide by gun deaths every day," or something like that. And I said, interesting. This is not about mental health. This is about you are pushing a gun agenda there. Yes, because what about the suicides that they slit their wrists? Or what about the suicides that jump off off a building? What about those suicides? Those don't matter. You only care about the gun suicides. I don't believe that that's a billboard that's true. That has a hidden agenda that's using somebody's tragedy to push a gun law. In my opinion, this is the kind of bullshit that they perpetuate.
True, that's totally true, and really that again it negates the value of what our country views mental health on. It's like they
Exactly.
want to just pretend it's not there. And that, like, oh, let's just ignore that. It's not there. And, I think that every single person in the world goes through bumps in their roads of highs and lows, where the wind's behind your back and everything's going your way. And then
Mhm.
the next day, something's a struggle, whatever it may be.
Oh, yeah.
And so everybody goes through those roads. And not all mental illness is clinical. Sometimes it's circumstantial and can be fixed with conversation without the needs of medicines, with giving perspective and having discussion with somebody who understands how to get that person unraveled so they see life through a better lens.
Absolutely.
And we treat it like, oh, you have a mental issue, ignore that person, don't pay for it. And insurance companies, who, and by the way, when I went to real estate school, it was amazing that I learned that insurance companies buy a lot of commercial real estate. And so you're like, it's not like they don't have the money. Insurance companies are the kings of like, no, we don't cover that because it was on a Thursday when the moon was rising and the wind was from the south and it was above 80 degrees. But you have a payment due. Did you want to make a payment while we're on the phone together?
Yeah, that's what they did to me once. I had to call Roto-Rooter once, right? So what happened was not even 6 inches off of my house, a pipe came undone, and it was basically going to the dirt. So I called and tried to make an insurance claim, and they came and said, no, that's outside of the house. That doesn't count.
It's on your property,
It's on my property, but it was the home's the insured piece, so we can't, even though it's protruding from your home, the severing was outside of your home, therefore we can't cover a damn thing. So it's ridiculous. And another thing you'd said, talking mental illness, one more thing on that is that if you really think about some mental illnesses, first of all, we've only begun to take it seriously. There's still generations before us, that still don't believe in that stuff. And they just think it's craziness and something's wrong with people. And there's not really mental illness. It's not a reality to them. And if you think about it, a lot of mental illnesses, and I learned this in a book by Dr. Russell Kennedy about anxiety, is that it's actually not just mental, but it's bodily as well. Because if you think about anxiety and that nerves and that, you carry most of that more in your body, your thoughts just feed it, right? So it is a bodily issue that can't cause other physical illnesses that, okay, now we'll take it serious. You know what I'm saying? It's just addressing the mental health part and the bodily health, the emotional health part of it, I believe is a reason why it's neglected in some cases, is because they know that's going to lead to other problems where you're going to need to medicate yourself further. Now they got medications for all of it. So,
well, I mean, when I talk about the circumstantial mental illness, we spent no time in our educational system that we could actually educate people on how to manage that. We don't talk about that. We want to focus more of our time over the history of a war. Right. This guy said something wrong, so we bombed them.
Yeah. Photosynthesis and mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
We should be teaching economics in our school. We should be teaching some sociality and temperament and how to navigate the highs and lows of emotions. We should how to be respectful to one another, how to enjoy one another, how to empower one another. I mean, like, those are better ways to train our children. Going in right now, I went to the board. I had to fight because the Democrats again put the sexuality in schools, and I'm going to my kid's school, and yet there's a book called Genderqueer. And if you go to district220.com, I built the website on it, and click the image that says click here. You could see me get up and speak about it. I'm like, there's no reason why those types of images of people giving oral sex should be in a school like that. Like graphical pornography in elementary schools and junior highs and high schools.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I think I saw you speak on that. Did you share that on Facebook a few years ago or something?
Yeah.
I saw that. I did see you do that. I'm great. That's great. We need people to speak up for it.
Oh, I speak up, man. Mike, I mean, it's funny when some people are like, you shouldn't talk politics or you shouldn't talk about things because it could hurt your band. And I'm like, what is my band worth if I live in a terrible society? What's more important to me, my children's future and the healthiness of the society, or that my band, drew 10 more people to a show? I mean, when's it enough?
Exactly. And what good is that? Why has society got to be like that? To where that if you have a few policies,
you can't be successful. You can't be successful if you for Trump.
Yeah, right. Because you have a certain opinion on something that we have to completely shut out your band. Like, for instance, like someone that enjoys your music and likes your band, really they're punishing themselves if you think about it. Because if they enjoy your band and like to go to your shows, but then they'll go on Facebook and they don't agree with a couple of things you've said, and they want to go. Right. They want to go. That's fine. Ignore me on Facebook. Come to my shows. Why do you have to cut it off?
We don't talk about politics at our shows.
No, exactly. Right.
Never will.
No, that's a great way to go about it. You have your Facebook to do that. Just unfollow on Facebook. It's that simple, or mute, and then come see the shows. Because if you like the guy's music, or for me, you like my podcast, I don't know, whatever the fuck, but like something like that. But like you really punish yourself because the person that's gonna completely cut you out and not go to your shows any longer, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you can't
absolutely
you don't have the mentality to handle the fact that this guy has a few different views than you. So you're going to deprive yourself of seeing a band you enjoy and going out on a Saturday or Friday night and seeing these guys and have fun, So I think it's that, and then I do believe that the overall, whoever Big Brother is, the biggest of the biggest out there, really wants, in a sense, and this is a little bit of a tinfoil hat comment for me, but is what I truly believe when you strip it all down, is that I believe that they don't want us to be united. They don't want us to be healthy, and they don't want us to be intelligent, and they want us fat, sick, and on pills and broke. I think that's really the best way to control people.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just where I want to have just a human to human conversation. I want to sit around with those people and say, well, okay, great. You got all the money in the world, all the power in the world. You killed off everybody. You're the God of gods. Is life fun for you? Like, you killed everybody.
Right.
What do you just want to live? There's islands in the Caribbean you could probably go to overtake and live and own it. You're the king of the island. I'm like, what is life worth it without the memories and experiences that you have with other people? Part of what makes the journey of life fun is the experience you have with other human beings.
Right.
Just imagine if you never dealt with another human being ever. Like, it wouldn't be as fun as it is to look at this guy being funny, this guy, being dramatic, this guy doing great sports, this guy writing a great song, this guy being a great performer. Exactly. This guy's a good worker. This guy created a new product. And you need to see through the lens of need of all people. Somebody has to be the doctor. Someone's got to be the farmer. Someone's have to be the dentist. Someone's got to manufacture something. Someone's got to build a car. Someone's got to fix a car. And when you see life from that lens, you understand the importance of other people. When you understand the importance of other people, you'll start thinking less of being a dictator, because being a dictator, you're not going to go very far. It's not going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to be around that. And it's amazing when they say that Trump's a dictator. Like, he's not a dictator. He's got a strong opinion. He's got a focused goal, and not everybody agrees with it. He comes across brash, but life is so much better when you have others around you. And so it's how I train my kids, and the importance of other people. We've completely got off that in our society to appreciate each other. So I put it on the pick: love, appreciate, and respect each other. There's a reason for every word I put on that pick and on my patch and on my shirts, because I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart.
And with those picks, I like that you put those messages on, because man, you have got some crazy accuracy the way you fling those things out into the crowd, man. I've never seen something like that. It's if you haven't, this Richie here, he's a wizard with flinging his picks, and he can just like bam, nail you right in the forehead with it if he's trying to do it. It's really impressive. I mean, there should be like an Olympic sport or something like that. It's just a guitar.
It's so funny, Mike. It's so funny. I'm a terrible basketball player. I'd be the worst. In basketball, remember when we were in school, and you'd be like, I want Bobby, I got Stevie, I got Johnny. Okay, you guys get Richie. Hey,
I think I was at a show once, and all of a sudden I looked down into my cup of beer. I had a beer glass, and I looked down, and hey, Richie flung a pick into my beer.
Yeah, I can get in clubs easily.
Dumb
skill,
right? But it's still cool. So a couple more things before we wrap it up here. I took a poll on Instagram the other day, and I'm going to see if you can guess what the results were of this poll. So I asked them, so could you marry someone with opposing political views? First of all, let's get your thoughts. Could you marry somebody with an opposing political view, or date somebody? I know you're married and all that. I have a girlfriend. We're all there, but like, it's just in generalizing it. Could you be with somebody romantically that has an opposing political view?
I could. However, I can tell you the one thing that has kind of discouraged me about that is sometimes when I have a discussion with somebody that has an opposing view, they have a different skew of reality than I do. So, I mean, my optimism would be there that I would be willing to try. I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't hold it against them. But, I look back at my life and like I said, up until a few years ago, I didn't care at all about politics. And when I rewind my entire life and I think about any disagreements or conflicts I had with somebody over somewhere where I was like, I don't understand the way they think. It's ironic that that person thinks is a Democrat. It doesn't mean I don't get along with them. I get along with a lot of Democrats.
Right.
It is something that I'm keeping note of, and I'm like I don't understand. It seems like Democrats are very much on social issues and emotional decisions, and that doesn't make them a bad person. That just means that that's what's important to them. And whereas I see Republicans are more systematic and logical in the way that they think unemotionally. And I can tell you, as somebody who runs a bunch of companies, many times I have to make decisions that are not in my best interest or not emotionally comfortable, but they are in the best interest of the sustainability of the company. And so I understand what it is to wear both hats from a lens, but I've gotten to lean more towards systematical thinking than I do emotional thinking, because emotional thinking can sometimes send you in a bad spot, and that's usually why corporations have a board of directors to thwart that. So if you have emotional thinkers at the table, there's other people that might be able to balance that out. It doesn't mean they're bad, because life would not be good without emotional people around it. And I mean, you and I, anytime we've been in love or we experience a win of a game or a loss of a game, like the Bears game today, you're feeling a semblance, or a loss of a relative. You're feeling emotionality. So emotional can't be negated as not important. It's just which one is more important. I think it's centric to what is the topic.
Right.
And so I don't know. I don't know what would the poll say. I would guess that 60 to 70% of the people would say that yes, they would have to be on the same allegiance with their political partner.
You're about right. You're right. You're actually all right on the nose almost here, because I said the question was referenced, could you marry someone with opposing political views? And 70% said no.
Yeah.
So you're right. And I was going to just jump on there and tell you, I think one of our biggest problems here, and, maybe I could even be guilty of it at times, is that we don't celebrate our differences enough. We attack them more. I think if we, life would be boring if we were all the same, right? So I think
you need the balance. It has to have some balance. I think that's why our government has two parties.
Right. Exactly.
I also think that they should consider a third party that's the middle of the road. And
I think I have two views on the two-party system. I think I get why it's there for the good, and I do think it's actually kind of, maybe not even intentionally, but I think it was put in place for a good reason. But I think it's become more divisive.
Yeah, it's too polarized. Now. For checks and balances. It's not too polar. Well, when you're using misinformation and false accusations to polarize, that's now you've abused that. So whatever.
So I got two more questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up. So the first one is this. Let's just hypothetically, Donald Trump wins the election in a week. Okay.
Sure.
Richie, your opinion only. What are the chances he makes it to the inauguration alive?
I think he should stay out of the spotlight, because there's the media and Democratic politicians portray him as he's putting what's the right word, a risk of someone's freedoms and futures. Some people will overreact to that, especially somebody that has mental illness, and so they will try to assassinate him because they fear that their life is over. I see Trump, if he can, I think he will. Somebody should just advise him stay out of the public eye. I also concerned that when he, on the day that if he does win and he takes office, that he doesn't go to walking down the street again like he did before. Really, if I was friends with Trump, I'd tell him to shut his mouth, just get to work, and let your actions do all the talking, and you'll literally shut up everybody that is. I understand that because I've gone down that road myself,
Right.
where people criticized me or didn't agree with me. I didn't say anything. I just went to work, and my actions and approved themselves.
That's definitely the best course of action for him, I think, after this, especially if he can get the win down and just kind of go from there and just stay out of the spotlight a little bit and
Yeah,
do it
I
that
wish
way.
he'd stop doing rallies. I wish he would stop doing any rallies. Every day is somewhere or another.
I know.
I got to hand it to you, would like him or not, for that guy that age to go on stage and talk that long in so many different cities nonstop with no break is hard to do.
It is.
I mean, your stamina cannot be questioned, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
his health is a question. Are you kidding me? There's guys half his age that can't do that.
Exactly.
Come
It's
on,
nuts.
dude.
I
Give
think
credit where
it's-
credit's due.
I give him credit for that. And he said that on Rogan's podcast, and he kind of threw some shade at Kamala Harris for taking a day off or whatever the heck. And
Yeah.
and I'm not one. Look, I respect the dedication and the work and the effort that needs to get put in there to win this giant seat. He said this is the biggest seat. This is bigger than anything. This is bigger than the Super Bowl. This is the biggest thing in the world.
True.
The president of the United States. I get it, but I do disagree with Trump in a sense. You're also a human, and we do need to rest, and we need to take a minute. And I think he should, but at the same time, that's just not how he's wired.
And they keep overlooking the fact that the guy is already a billionaire and could live a kick-ass life till his death. He doesn't need the job, and he didn't even take a salary. That's how much he loves the country.
Yep.
And they never give him the credit for that. That's not fair. I mean, if you're going to give the guy assessment, you can't just tell all of his bad stats. You got to give his good stats too. You can't.
Exactly.
That when you're not doing that to people, that's what makes me. The more unfair they are to him, I feel like they're bullying him. I'm like, I'm going to go defend him.
Exactly. And
That's how I feel. I wouldn't say anything if they were fair about it. They just go, we don't like him, we don't like his policies, and we leave it as that. I go, fair enough.
That's
Fair
it.
enough. Fair
And
enough.
I was trying to get to do an episode with somebody who was supporting Harris, and I couldn't get
What are
anybody.
we going to talk about? That episode's going to be 5 minutes long. You'll be like, welcome to the show. All right, we're wrapping it up. Goodbye.
So my thing was I need to know what Harris is good for, but I don't want
Nothing.
to I said you cannot just say they're not Trump. I said, okay, she's not Trump. I said,
Yeah.
okay, fine. Leave it at
Yeah.
that. Then leave it at that. But don't attack anybody else that doesn't have that same view, because I don't share that view. I think that's actually manipulative. That the fact that it's almost like a test, like they're gonna put this idiot out there to ramble about nothing. I'm sorry, she's saying nothing. I would love to say something positive about this person, but I struggle. I looked for something. I don't know what there is.
We've watched the biggest brainwashing go on in our society. When you and I grow old, we're gonna look back and go, man, that was a brainwashing moment. Like,
yes, it was.
this whole political thing has been filled with brainwashing of complete. Well, the thing that kills me is like him and his Project 2025. How many more times does the guy have to say? It has nothing to do with it. It's just because he knows a couple of the guys. So
Yeah.
can I also say because Kamala Harris is a Democrat, and then Kathy Griffin cuts off the head of Trump and shows a picture, therefore Kamala Harris is a murderer? I mean, can we use the same correlations?
I know, right? It's like
when does this end? I mean, come on.
It's too delusional. Like, it's
So
not.
couple jackass guys that are building these, Project 2025.
Yeah.
Good for them. That's
Right.
not Trump's vibe, man.
And I'm not the one. And the thing is this: I'm not defending Trump. This is the problem. That this is the this is the Trump derangement syndrome, which is real. Dr. Drew, I'll send you it. Actually, Dr. Drew did a really good episode with a couple of psychologists on Trump derangement syndrome that wrote a book about it, and it's legitimate. It's legitimate, and I really believe in it. Is because it's a very weird phenomenon that these people, how they act. And the thing is, I'm not defending Donald Trump when I call them out for this derangement syndrome. I'm not MAGA. I'm not that. I'm literally I'm defending normalcy.
Honestly,
and sanity. This is insanity. I don't even want to hear I'll say it right now. If the roles were reversed, I don't lose my shit over Kamala Harris. I don't go nuts like that. But then they'll come back at me and say, well, that's because she's not as bad as Trump. I'm saying, no, it's because I know I don't particularly care for her at all. But I'm not going to lose my mind. I said, this man is controlling you in an indirect way. You're allowing him to control your emotions. He is living inside of you. You are allowing him by reacting in such a dramatic fashion. You're letting this man, the ideology of him passed on through your Democratic overlords into your minion brain. You are allowing yourself to lose your mind over this man, and it's a lack of self-control. It's a lack of self-respect, in my opinion, to go that crazy over somebody who is not. Look, if he starts demonstrating legitimate Hitler shit where he's rounding people up and sending them to camp, okay, fine, let's freak out. I will, and I'll hate the guy. But
absolutely. I'm not.
There's not even a shred of anything close to that.
Right.
And I don't even think that of Kamala Harris either. I don't think she's going to round me up and kill me. I really don't believe that either. So it's just it's all dramatic. And that leads me to my final question for you, Richie.
Sure. Yeah,
objective as hell. I know everyone listening knows we lean a certain way, but let's just say objective. You just have to pick. Who do you truly believe in your heart? I know who you think the right candidate is, but who do you believe is going to win 1 week from today in the U.S. presidential election of 2024? Who do you believe is going to come out the winner?
I believe that Trump will win based on a couple factors, because it's one thing to form an opinion over personality. It's another reality to see what's happening to your life financially and what you have to deal with on a daily basis. You know, Trump isn't standing next to you when you're at the grocery store, when you're pumping gas, when you're paying for insurance, when you're buying things. You're seeing companies go out of business. You want to go get a burger and that place is out of business. That building's closed. That building's closed. You can't ignore that. You can ignore Trump's personality, but you can't ignore the reality that's around you. You can play pretend. Well, we've already seen how sometimes they play pretend. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you have. I think more people are affected by this than they aren't. So I think that more people are fed up by what they're seeing. I think they don't like to see the violence. It's not just economic. They don't like seeing the violence. They don't like the immigration issue. They don't like that we're funding wars. We should not be funding wars. When they talk about, the people's rights, what about all the innocent people's lives that are dying over on the other side of the globe because we're funding the wars? We're sending millions of dollars, if not trillions and billions or whatever. I never looked at the exact number, probably in the billions, that we're funding these wars. And you and I are paying for that. And that's not true. When we pay our taxes, part of our taxes are going to fund those things. And why are we funding wars? Well, history has proven that there always is going to be some ideology, people that don't agree with each other. But rather than being influential to them on how not to fight, we just empower them to continue to fight. And if you really break it down, why that happens is the government makes money in war. And how it makes money is by selling things to them. They can justify the move of money. When you've allowed the government to move money, you're allowing them to siphon off of it and take for themselves. You don't have to be a microanalyst to look at economic person to say, look at how many of the politicians entered at one value net worth, and when they got out of office, what is their net worth? And then what did they make per salary per year? And then go, how did they make that money? By manipulating the markets, which the SEC should have got in on that. By funding wars and siphoning money, by writing bullshit policies that are 20,000 pages, and somewhere in there was a paragraph for one politician to make money on whatever quote unquote program they wanted to fund. And that is the abuse of the government power. And that is, I think people are now waking up to that. So I do think Trump will win because I think people are seeing that and they're fed up with it. The concern I have is the election fraud. We already, as we sit here today, we've seen factually numerous polling places where the ballots have been set fire into the things. I've had 3 or 4 friends already call me about shady things going on at the polling places. The machine wasn't working. Something else wasn't working. They had to go back. I'm on an underground thread with a bunch of people that we all talk, and they show me videos of going to. I think Schaumburg had a problem. There was a problem in Des Plaines where somebody pointed out to me that on the ballot it said, and it didn't say Democrat and Republican. It said Republic and Democracy, like, or something, trying to say like you're voting for democracy. It wasn't the wording on the ballot in Des Plaines. Those types of things, if people want, we as a country need to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, we are supposed to have a fair election process. I'm shocked that we allow other countries to have anything to do with our elections. And they do, when the Dominion voting system is not even part of America, and it's created by, is it not Venezuela? I forgot what the country. I think maybe it was Venezuela. Somebody, I don't remember who it is. There's other countries that are doing that. I remember when they were talking about election fraud, they showed all the IP logins from the other countries that were showing IP logins to our voting system. Now I understand we have naval bases and armies all around the world, which, if you researched why the Ukraine-Russia war is happening, because America keeps funding the people they're putting on the border of Russia. We're through NATO forces. We're funding these wars. So I don't like what I see. I'm hoping that the election, that everybody is paying attention, and every single patriot is paying really close attention, and every voting station has a patriot. And some people do see even better metrics. They look at the population of that zip code and say the count cannot be greater than the population. If Schaumburg, Illinois, had 100,000 people live here, the vote cannot exceed 100,000 people. Right. Like basic common sense metrics.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that goes true across the whole entire nation. I don't think that Trump is going to harm America. I don't believe he's out to hurt America. If he was, he would have done that already. Nobody's bringing that up in the media that, hey man, the guy was already in for 4 years. All the things you're accusing him of. I remember very vividly that Hillary Clinton kept saying he's got the big red button. He's going to send us to war. He's the only president in my 54 years of being alive that he did not start a war. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
I've been alive 54 years, more than half 100 years.
Right.
I don't know, man.
And he said on Rogan, he said he's not gonna fund this Ukraine-Russia deal. He's gonna end it. He's not gonna put an end to it.
Like if I was the president tomorrow, there's so many things I would do so quickly. One, I would get us out of every single war. I'm not funding them. I would go meet with them, maybe like, you guys, we're going to meet together in a room. We're done. We're not playing boys in the sand anymore with guns. We're done. People are dying innocently around the world. Stop your fighting. Find commonality, find a solution without the catastrophic deaths that are all around you. Nobody wants to die. That's the first thing I would do. I would close the border and say, you're all welcome into our country as long as you're going to uphold our laws that we've agreed to, and you're going to be a model citizen, and you don't have a shady past. They've already let a couple guys there who were literally on camera like, I'm a terrorist, you're going to know about me soon. That's kind of a problem. I don't want to see another terrorist attack in America where people die. I might know them, and even if I didn't know them, I care about them. Right. And then I would fix our health system and tell them, no, we're not going to, not only the health insurance system, which is bullshit, but the health quality of our food supply and manufacturing. I would fix our trade deals, and I would bring crime to be accountable. And I think that all those things could fix a majority of our economy. I do agree with them on tariffs on Trump, and I would look for that. I would drop the tax rates and make sure that the country has a better cash flow, because the cash flow is the answer to fixing our deficit and making our American value of our dollar stronger.
Oh, well, I have to say, I would love to be your VP if you are president tomorrow when you wake up somehow. So that
I wish. I got a band to run.
you got some other things going on, but hey, it's all right. So hey, look, man, you've given me a lot of your time today, and I really appreciate it, man. And I think this has been a great conversation. I've loved everything you've had to say. Very educated, very, very fair. I think you have a good not too far off in one direction type thing. Some people might think you do, but it just,
No,
you never know, you know?
yeah, I actually don't. I mean, I actually,
Yeah.
if I was ever in office, I like that Trump has put two Democrats on his base, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK.
Right.
That says right there, just those actions alone prove that that guy can be worked with. You
Right.
can't claim that we won't work with anybody. He's a dictator. A dictator won't work with an opposing party. He's already accepted two people. So that argument is negated. I would have done the same thing. It's funny because I said about 6 months ago, I said, if Trump was smart, he should pick RFK as his VP. The Democrats wouldn't even know what to do about that.
Yeah, exactly. And then you know, also with the racism and the womanizing and all they throw at him, he's got in his cabinet, you know, he's got women, he's got blacks, he's got,
Yeah, dude.
I mean, say what it is. This is what it is. It's just, it's more that those are just surface level issues that they try to throw out there. They're so empty and shallow. It's just, there's no substance. It's just really about too much political ideology and identifying too heavily with a political side, and it's unhealthy as can be. Which is why somebody that's I see you as and myself is the same spectrum here. Like, just we have our views that lean one way, but we're overall moderate and fair. Anyone that would call us extreme or say that we're this or that, I think they're yelling at us they're projecting and yelling at us from the far end of something.
I'm not extreme.
No,
I'm not extreme at all. Yeah, not at all.
No,
I care about everybody equally.
Yeah, exactly. And the same with me, man. You know, you got your far left people, which we can rip on and all that, but you get your far right people who are terrible people, who are almost too patriotic. I think that Trump is Jesus and all this. He's not. So you know, God sent Donald Trump to us. No, he didn't. No, it's not even close. I don't agree. One thing I don't agree with, and I do want to wrap this up, but I do want to say, like, I don't agree. I feel like the Democratic Party wants to be God, and I feel like the Republican Party, the farther ends, you know, the Republican Party uses God to gain their voters. I don't think that either one is necessarily out.
And nobody should be playing God but God.
No, exactly. Nobody should be using God in this game. God is a personal thing for you. He's not part of this. It's just not the way it is, in my opinion.
I wish I was at heaven when they get up to heaven and they gotta try to get in, and then they're like, well, I did all these bad things, and like, all right, you're not getting it.
No, you're out of here. Get out of here. Get out of the gates here. But anyway, so Richie, where's a good place, you know, for anyone who wants to like reach you, whether it be to talk about this or to check out the cruises? Is it your website?
So if you want to look about Seventh Heaven, which has nothing to do with politics, go to seventhheavenband.com. The number 7, seventhheavenband.com. If you want to go learn about the cruises, go to chicagomusiccruise.com. Those cruises also don't really bring politics in. I only really bring politics only on my personal Facebook page to people that I consider my personal friends, and they're only my personal views. I love talking about it. I actually, a lot of the times I post because I want to see what other people that don't see through my lens, if they make a valid point or they make a valid thing, I'm like, oh, that's good to know. I like to see that. That's that. You know, you go to my Facebook page, you can find me, Richard Hofherr. How to spell my name? You got Hofherr on my Facebook. You'll find me. I'm easy to talk to, you know. I don't think I'm always right. I'm a person who cares.
He's a passionate guy. You're a passionate guy about lots of things. Passionate about life, helping people, music, things like that, all the things we love. That's why
I love making joy and people happy.
Absolutely. We love Richie on this podcast. Absolutely. And then, so that's how you get to Richie. I'll put that in the show notes. For me, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you want to find me at MFS Wellness. I have a website myself at mfswellness.com. So, for Richie, I'm Mike. This has been a great conversation, and we will talk to you on the next one.